I think I have finally come up with an ingenious plan to hang those Vipar spectralights. Now, Vipar Spectra, or any black box light LED that you get, comes in one of these heavy cages where it's just put in jail. I mean, the thing is heavy. It gets hot in there because you have two power supplies, one for the blues, one for the whites. Then you have the LEDs that are in there, and they're creating all kinds of heat. The heat sink is dissipating, sucking the heat out of the LEDs, and the fan is going. The fan's creating more heat, the little motor in there, and everything is just blowing air around. And my goodness, what a genius method to madness. I like to blow this thing off. One of the very first things that I did was to take those LEDs out of this box and just putting them up on the tank and running them under 80%, they do not get hot. When I want to push 90%, 100%, I've got a fan up there that you can see, and that helps to keep it under more manageable heat. The very first thing you do is you open this up, right? You take the, I've already gutted it. One of the first things that you run into though, when you remove this box, when you take the LEDs out of here, is that the caps. These things start coming off because they're not glued on there. They're on there because they're sandwiched between the glass and the board. You see that I have them on there, and I have them on the lid, and that's the only reason that these things stay on. Whenever I move them around though, these things pop off all the time. I can lift the whole lid off and put it over to the side, but I kind of would like to have it hanging higher and then maybe lift it up out of the way, hang it on a wire or something, or an arm that I can just move and rotate out of the way. Here, one of the other things that I did think of was to actually glue these on so they don't come off. But then I thought, well, if I glue those on, then I will never be able, not never, it'll be more difficult for me to get them off and get them out of the way if I need to desolder some of those LEDs and purchase some more to put in there. If I ever want to mess with them, it's going to be a hassle to pop them off of there. And maybe that's true and maybe it's not, but they're also not that pretty to look at, even from the side. If you get somebody tall in here and they can see the side of the light, then they're looking at these things lit up. And so it'd be nice to kind of hide those. But first things first though, how do you take the glass out of here? I'm going to go ahead and rearrange the camera for the rest of this. You don't have to look at me anymore. The first thing you want to do with this, you got your, get yourself a razor blade. And see this glue here? They just kind of slop that on. So all you have to do is run your knife alongside and get rid of that. And it's going to take a little bit of work. I mean, it happens pretty easy. It's not really that frustrating. You're going to see as I pull this off here, I'm scraping the edge of the glass all the way. So even if there's some still on the glass, we can clean that up later. But even if there's some still on the glass, it's no longer connected to what's on the box. And the next thing you're going to do is run the blade still along the glass. And you're going to run it right up against the glass and all the way down, hitting the metal. The first thing you want to do is this. Yeah, I've already done a couple. Now, be careful. This edge here, they have not sanded that. So the glass, it can cut you. I haven't cut myself yet, but I imagine you could hit a spot that's super sharp while you're doing this. So just be aware that that's a clean cut of glass, and you don't want to run your fingers along it. You can run the blade along it, no problem, but don't run your fingers along that. Right here, there is something else that's holding it. There's a little metal tab. It's just a little pointy tab, and you can bend those with your fingers, or you can just grab a stick, shove it under there. You don't want to put a piece of metal under there and then lift it up, because you'll end up chipping the glass. But you can just lift them up with your finger. They're fairly flexible. And there's 1, 2, 3. Is there one in the middle? No, there's not one in the middle. There's 2 on each side and 1 on each end. The only thing holding this down is going to be what's between the metal and the glass underneath the glass. And it's not that much. So you want to start, when you pry that up, you want to start on an end, and you're going to grab the whole thing, and you're going to just put your fingers under here, and you're going to push up on these corners. So you'll just kind of basically give it a squeeze. And as you do that, and then you can kind of work your way around, I can already feel on this side, it wants to come up. The only reason it's not coming up is because I still have 3 sides to do. But for this video, I'm not going to do that. But that's how easy it is. Lift up these tabs and you scrape off that goop. And we have our nice free piece of glass. So we can put that right over. And what we're going to do now is we are going to solve this situation. So now I've thought of, how can I attach this glass? Because look at that. Now we're free to do whatever we want with that. And I thought, oh, right off the bat, I could probably just put some zip ties around this, or some string, or some wire. But then you have this wire, kind of looks funky, and then you can still see those LEDs lighting up from the side, which isn't that bad of a deal. But I kind of wanted to clean it up. And so what I thought, after looking at all kinds of different things, there's these little pieces of finishing wood, finishing trim that you can get at your hardware store. Go to your hardware store and you're looking for a corner trim piece. And they have inside corners and outside corners. This is an outside corner. This is 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. It's 1/2 inch on the inside, 3/4 inch on the outside. And so what I'm going to use this for is to hold that glass in. But how am I going to attach this to that? I thought if I just get another chunk of some sort of wood, and I've thought about it long and hard, so this isn't just a random piece of wood that I'm picking up for you. I've thought about these 2 pieces, because what this one's going to do is it's also going to prevent too much light splash. So if we look at that, can I pick it all up? No, I can't. But I can spin it around, and you can kind of see it from the side. See that? So that's going to look pretty good. This V shape for this corner piece, I cut them just to where the LEDs are. So this is going to be short. And then this one, I cut it to the end of the board itself. So that way when you're looking at it from the side, it's containing all the LED light. I'm going to have this right along those holes, and I'm going to screw it in from the back side. So now you're going to have to do a lot of pre-drilling. Pre-drilling is your friend. So get yourself some drill bits, whatever screws you end up using. Make sure that your drill bit matches it. You're going to line it up, mark the holes, and then you're going to drill right at the center. If you have a drill press, use that. If you don't, you can just use one of these. This is what I used. I have a drill press, but I'm too lazy to get it out. This one happens to have a rounded corner, so I would use the flat side to drill the holes into. Drill its center mass. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to glue it on. We're going to use some liquid nails or some wood glue. And then once it's glued, make sure when you do it, because if you look right now, this guy, there's a gap. It's not touching the bottom. So when you glue it, you have to do it right here on the board. So make sure this is up against everything. The way I did it was I put this right on the LED, on the edge of the LEDs. You just find it by pushing this over. Now you know this is at the height that it wants to be at. And then you put some glue on there, and I ran a bead all the way down. I added another screw from here to here. And that gives me the assurance, because this is going to be holding the glass and we don't want that falling and breaking. Spray painted the heatsink. So it diminishes its ability to dissipate the heat by maybe 5%, and it depends on how thick of a coat you put of the paint. So do not be liberal with the paint when you're painting over this. You can be liberal here and on all the wires and whatever else you're painting. Feel free to paint it as hard as you want. But when you're spraying the heat sink, be very light. And you can also think about, okay, when I look at my tank, am I going to be looking at it directly down? So if I'm not going to be looking at it directly down, I don't need to paint the inside of that so hard. If I'm mostly going to be looking at it from maybe this angle, then paint it from this angle. And when you paint it, then that's all you have to paint. If the wall is back here and you're never going to be standing back there, then you don't even have to paint it from the other side. You can just leave that aluminum and just paint what you're going to see. Paint what you're going to see here, paint what you're going to see here and in the front. Don't paint the entire thing if you don't have to. Now, because Spicy's kind of a nut, he went ahead and painted the whole thing. So here's what it looks like finished. I painted the whole thing. I don't have a glass on the bottom yet because that's my glass there. Yeah. See those things? They just want to pop off. Did I lose some already? And that, I painted it while it was face down and the leads were on there. So you see paint still kind of got around, but as long as it's face down, and I don't really care if the edges of these get paint on them, that doesn't bother me at all. We don't want the glass to be sprayed. Now, I probably still have to go back and spray some of this, but I'm not quite there yet. All right, so there's that. And here's the product attached. I put a little bevel on the edge. You don't have to. And that's how it's gonna fit. This, I'm still not finished painting this one. I just kind of popped it on there, but it's gonna line up with those holes pretty well. And we can see that's not too bad. It's gonna look pretty sweet, huh? I don't know what you think. I went with black. You can go with any color you want to. I like this spray paint because it goes on really super thin. It's super thin, just quick color. It's cheap. It's like $5, $7 for a can, and I think I can do at least one more. Probably I can do 2 more lights with this. But I'm gonna go ahead now and I'm gonna finish painting these. In addition, I'm gonna tape off these lights and then I'm gonna spray this. I was wondering why that ball kept getting bigger, and then it hit me.